Welcome to part 7C of the Voice Life Touch 2 video manual. We're going to go in and edit the reverb now. So I'm going to press and hold the reverb button. I could have pressed the edit button as well to get there, but it will take me directly to the reverb if I press and hold that. First thing I'm going to do is use the control to turn it on so we can hear the reverb. And then we're going to see that we have, as in the other blocks, a pertinent control. So we got decay time here that I can mess with. And I've got the level. Turn it way up, make it really long. Make it really short. And then, of course, I can choose the style. And all the styles have different settings in them for things like the dampening of the room and how bright things are, how bouncy they are, how large or small the room sounds. And, of course, you can control the sense of largeness or smallness of the room by the decay control, but also the style itself will dictate some of the parameters that are sort of under the hood that make the reverb sound the way it does. So I choose from plates and halls and all sorts of stuff like that. And we're going to go into the advanced menu now after we've messed around with those. And we've got some settings here. So we've got the dry level, which means the amount of my dry lead voice that gets applied to the reverb. So let's listen.
I've turned it off.
Did you catch that?
I've turned it off. Now I'm bringing my
lead voice back. There it is. Now my lead voice is back, so I have my lead voice and the reverb. Whereas when you have dry level off, you have just the reverb. Pre-delay delays the onset of the reverb slightly from the input signal of your voice. And it just gives you a tiny little gap to get things like consonants and vowels to show up before the reverb is triggered. And it makes it a little bit more intelligible. This is a really good parameter to mess around with to make sure that if you have a very big reverb and a very sort of slow song or something like that, and you don't want the reverb to step all over your voice, but you still want that big, room sound, try messing with the pre-delay and try 15 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds, those kinds of things, to just see if you can find a place where your voice is still completely understandable, but the reverb is really large around it and it doesn't get too drowned out. Really good setting to mess with there. Width is the same thing as it is in any other control here. Our reverbs are in stereo, so you have 100% wide down to completely narrow, almost basically mono at that point, and anywhere in between. And you can just set it with that control. The delay to reverb is the amount of the delay taps that get fed into the reverb. So you can choose to say, I would like these delay taps to continue and sound like those taps themselves happen within the room that my reverb is representing. Or I want the reverb to only be on my lead voice on that initial delay, and then I want the delays to happen without setting off the reverb, as it were. So that it's as though the delay taps are bouncing around in a room, and that's where you're sending 0 dB, you're sending the full amount, so they're bouncing around in the room, or that they're just bouncing around in sort of no particular space at all. They'd sound much more dry at that point. And either one is a completely viable way to go. It's just about the style that you choose to employ. So you can turn this all the way down. You can have no delay going to the reverb, or you can have all the delay going to the reverb. That is the end of the reverb block.